What's up viewers, and welcome to another episode of Cheers Reviews. I'm your host Jimmy, and today we are talking about the Squier Classic Vibe 60's Fretless Jazz Bass. Yes, it took me a little while to say the name of the bass, but I wanted to emphasize that this is the fretless version of the 60's Jazz Bass, which I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. And if you're new to the channel, I'm going to leave a link to that review in the description below, so feel free to check it out. Now, for a bit of history on the fretless bass, it was made famous by the legendary bassist himself, Jaco Pastorius, in about 1969. Apparently, he removed the frets from his 1962 Fender Jazz Bass with a butter knife. He filled up all the gaps with plastic wood and then gave it a heap of coats of polypoxy to cover up all of the gouges that he made with the butter knife. Now, I'm not sure if that's just folklore, but it's a really cool story nonetheless. And now with the frets gone, essentially it means that your fingertips are now in place of the frets that were once there. It boasts a similar quality to the upright double bass, which is also a fretless instrument. Super, super cool. Now, a few years ago, I actually owned a Squire vintage modified fretless jazz bass. Now, obviously this was part of the vintage modified series, and to be honest, it pulled a lot of inspiration from Jaco Pastorius's Bass of Doom. This is the same bass that we spoke about a bit earlier. I did love playing the vintage modified version of the fretless bass, but it did bug me that it looked a lot like the Bass of Doom. I don't know why, but I just kind of wanted my own bass to play. And although it was quite good, Squire have definitely made leaps and bounds with the quality of the fit and finish with the classic vibe version of the fretless jazz bass. And I also like that from afar it looks like a pretty standard classic style jazz bass, but unlike its fretted siblings, this is only available in one color, which is the 3-tone Sunburst that we've got today, paired with a 3-ply tortoiseshell pickguard. In saying that, if the color's not your jam, it's definitely easy to flip out that pickguard if you wanted to go with a mint one or a black one or even a pearl. And it's also easy to change out the dials if you're not a fan of the plastic ones. But hey, for me, I actually quite like the factory finish that it comes with. Anyway, check with your local dealer for pricing, but these are most commonly found for about 579 Aussie dollary dues. Jumping into specs, we've got a poplar body, a tinted glossy maple neck with an Indian Laurel Fretboard. Is it a fretboard if it hasn't got frets? I don't know. Moving on, it's got a 60's era correct grooved saddle bridge, vintage style tuners, and it's got 2 Fender design Al Nico single coil pickups, which have a volume dial each and an overall tone. Now, I've had so much fun jamming on this bass all week, and I can't wait to show you what it's all about. So without much further ado, let's see how it sounds. know what you thought in the comments below. How much fun was that? And thank you so much for putting up with my freestyle as well. There's something unmistakable about the growls that you get from a fretless bass, and Squire have done such a good job to preserve the 60s classic vibe in the jazz bass. And as I mentioned before, I have played a few fretless basses in the past, and there's something that I really like about the straight up nature of the Squire Classic Vibe jazz basses, and pairing that with the fretless neck is just awesome. And just like the other basses that I've reviewed in the Classic Vibe range, this has that lovely, slim, slick, glossy neck, and it feels so great. There is only one criticism that I do have about the bass, and that's that it comes with round wound strings. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer about this, but I do feel that flat wounds would have been a better choice on a fretless bass. And for reference, the Squire vintage modified fretless bass that I used to own, the one that I mentioned before, that came with flat wounds, so I had an expectation that this one would too. But then again, I can't really complain because it does feel and sound really good. And if I want to change over the strings, well, that's not really a big deal. And if you're looking for a great bass for some fretless fun without breaking the bank, the Squire Classic Vibe 60s fretless jazz bass is definitely the one for you. Sorry, I got a little bit carried away there. It might be the right bass for you, but as always, definitely do your own research, make your own decision about which bass is right for you. But for me, I absolutely love it. Anyway, thank you so much for coming along with me to check out the Squire Classic Vibe 60s fretless jazz bass. If you liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see weekly bass related content, think about smashing that subscribe button down below. But until next week, keep on rocking, and I'll see you next time.